Article from Breitbart, which is absolutely not a far-right source. This is insane. Look up Andrew Breitbart. Look up the history of Breitbart. It's not. No, they're saying it's far-right because they don't support illegal immigration and they criticize the far left. They're not far-right in any way, shape, or form. And they're actually a good source of information. It's much more non-biased than the fake news industrial complex. The article says Chelsea Clinton, I want white children of privilege to erode that privilege. Here's the ivory tower liberal on a talk show trying to tell you whatever you want to hear to get you to like the post, watch the ad, buy the product, and vote for her.
You know, Congresswoman, certainly, I mean, my children are young, but we believe they're young, but still citizens. So we talked about, you know, the ratification of the 19th Amendment and Women's Equality Day, but how fundamentally kind of incomplete that victory was. So not to say it wasn't a victory and it wasn't important, but that it was so fundamentally flawed. I mean, it wasn't only Black women who didn't have the right to vote. Indigenous and Native American women didn't have the right to vote, right? Until the 1920s. And even then,
when the fascists brought the women's suffrage movement to Europe, fascists came to power on women's suffrage, 18 plus voting age, a 8-hour work week, reduction of the retirement age. What else was there? If you look at what they did, it did not look bad. But they were first wave feminists. First wave feminism means the women's suffrage movement. They say that Nazis weren't feminists, but Nazi women worked in factories. That's as feminist as it got back then.
You know, so many of the Voting Rights Act cases have actually been against states like Alaska that have historically disenfranchised Indigenous and Native American women. So to say that, you know, these fights are not just kind of in our history books, these are still active, ongoing fights. You know, and 40% of Americans with disabilities report that, you know, they have real challenges voting in person. And so in states where there haven't,
they're free to get an absentee ballot. But for the rest of us, we would like to try to convince people at the polling station to vote the way that we want them to. We would like to get the information at the polling station. We would like to engage in free speech and petitioning the government on the property and not have those times, places, and manners reduced, because that would abridge our First Amendment right.
Been kind of no excuse absentee voting, or where there, you know, hasn't been the introduction of early voting yet, you know, it still isn't kind of easy, fair, or equal for many Americans to vote. I think it's really important that my children understand that. And I think it's particularly important that they understand that as white children of privilege, because I want them to erode that privilege throughout their lives to ensure more people are enfranchised and that equality isn't just an ideal.
This is what you're voting for when you vote for Democrats. They're all like this. It's not just her. They're all like this, man. They're far lefties, dude. Lefty is not like the same as a liberal. A lefty only votes for far left ideas. They see everything through a biased lens of fairness, as in Steven Pinker's universal moral of fairness. I'm familiar with what I'm talking about. He's a famous psychology professor at Harvard. Did a study that showed that all people on the world share 5 different classifications of morals. They are fairness, cleanliness, authoritarianism, group loyalty, and self-protection. All morals that you have are like one of these classifications. And another way to describe morals are they're things that really piss people off or they motivate them to do something. And the lefties, they bias, their moral of fairness is above everything else, but they are not fair to people who violate their moral of fairness. They want to harm them. And let's watch more of what this crazy bitch said.
That's right. And, you're really modeling that which my mother certainly believed, which is that a parent is a child's first teacher. And so I so appreciate that you're providing that full education, because we know that often there is um, a revisionist history or a sanitizing a filtering of history that does not tell the whole story. But confronting that past, that's really how we get to truth and reconciliation. And we fortify ourselves to continue to do the work to make sure that we are dismantling those barriers that still exist, and that we are in cooperative affront to the voter suppression and intimidation tactics that are still very real today, what I would consider, equivalent to like modern day jelly bean counting.
Right, like when you mail in your ballots and nobody goes to a polling station to talk about it in person, and then they control the narrative on Democrat-run social media networks like Facebook, Twitter, and Quora, and then you're all fed nothing but disinformation and false facts in your house, and then the people who you live with intimidate you into voting a certain way. Right. This is the dystopian Democrat America that is Biden's America, where they encourage lawlessness, rioting, looting, murder, because they're targeting the privileged white males, right? They have unlimited white privilege. They're getting from the white privilege factory downtown, where they're like giving out free white privilege to all the white males, but they won't give any to the women or the African Americans or the Asians or the Kleenex or the Latinx, because you can't say La or Los because that's sexist, because the white feminists have canceled Spanish. And this is what you're voting for. And they say, no, if you don't want to hire these people, it's because you're racist or you're sexist. And you need to hire them in order to fire all of the white people where you work, to replace them with younger, more diverse people who aren't racist white Republicans. These people are insane. They're in a suicide cult. I personally don't have any white privilege. I am wearing a suit that I got from the Goodwill. Thank you very much. I have given all of my money to this show to debunk this fake news, to show you the truth of the wool that the Democrats and the Chinese Nazi Party have pulled over your eyes with this gigantic cyber operation where they are faking the news. The news is fake. It's fake, dude. Watch Real Simple News. Watch what I've been doing, dude. Watch past episodes. The news is so fake, it's insane what is going on. I have proved anything that I've said on this show, I have proof for in the history of Real Simple News. You can see the progression as it goes through. You can see the news is actually indeed fake. And it's because everything these people believe is a lie. They've been brainwashed, fed a different set of facts by cultural Marxists who are attempting to do an electronic boogaloo to turn the far left against the far right to annihilate the conservative power structure in order to wipe the white people off the face of North America, replace their language with Spanish, because when you change the language, you change the culture. Cultural Marxism, coming to a theater near you, sponsored by Xi Jinping and the Democrats.